Adding accessories can add a lot of interest and personality to our models. Building your own accessories, well, that makes your models unique. And what's great about it is that making these little scratch-built items is easy and a lot of fun to do. All we need is a little bit of plastic and a few tools. Let's have some fun. Often when we think about scratch building, it seems like a daunting task. It's just too complicated. Or perhaps you have to sell your soul to the devil and there's some sort of black magic or even voodoo to get the job done. It's really not the case. But when it comes down to it, it's just about finding the circle, the triangle, the box, the sphere, making these small shapes, putting them together into something more complex. The first piece that we're going to work on are these recoil blocks. These were placed behind the wheels of the cannon to help it prevent from moving backwards when the gun was fired. And while these came in all different sorts of sizes and shapes, basically we're looking at a triangle here. So that's what we'll work with first. We'll make a triangle. Most of this construction will be done using 20,000th plastic card. I've cut it into little strips, and from there I'll cut it to the proper length. When I say proper length, I'm basically just kind of guessing here, just kind of what's going to look good on my little diorama base. One of the nice things about using styrene is you don't need to cut it all the way through. You just need to score it a few times, and then it will snap. And now that I have these little rectangles, I need to make them into triangles, so I'll just use my straight edge and cut across the bias. These will become the side walls for the recoil blocks. These sides are glued to a top and a bottom, sanded smooth, and now we have a small little triangle to start working with. Of course, this little triangle looks too smooth and nice for what our purposes are. We need to make it look like it was built from some heavy lumber. So, to do that, I'll be gluing some strips of plastic around the exterior of this to represent the big planks of wood. Once these strips are on and the glue is dried, then it's just a simple matter of evening up the edges with the hobby knife and then a final sanding just to get everything looking nice and square again. Once the edges were all sanded smooth, then I added a little bit of wood grain texture with the tip of my knife and some coarse sandpaper, and then they're ready for paint. The next item that we'll be working on are these thatched walls, used as retaining walls against the earth as they dug out trenches, or in this case, a gun emplacement. The basic frames for these will be made from 40,000 styrene strip, and I'm using the chopper here to cut the lengths. It's just a really nice tool in order to make even cuts throughout. And just to keep things squared up, I'm just using two of my straight edges just to kind of hold the framework in place while the glue sets. For the thatch, I'm just using this really thin plastic strip and just weaving it in and out of the supports. In retrospect, I should have used some round rod for this, as generally these were made from twigs and branches, but it looks okay, so I'm going to live with it. After each strip is woven through, I just simply touch it with a small amount of glue just to hold each row in place, then move on to the next. All in all, a nice bit of basket weaving, and they look the part. The next item we'll be adding is a box. Call it a mystery box just because, well, it's just a box. It's not really representative of anything in particular, but it will add some interest to our scene. The plastic I'm using here is a little bit different. Rather than being smooth on both sides, one side has some ridges on it. This type of plastic can be very handy if, for instance, you're constructing a building and this becomes the siding already ready to go. In this case, I'm using the same idea to make the planking on the sides of the box. A few last details, just scoring the edges so it looks like the wood wraps around the corners, and some light wood grain texture to the plastic. And I don't know if you're like me, but I save all my old photo etch because sooner or later it comes in handy. I found this little latch, which is going to be perfect for our box. Just a touch of glue, And we are all set. Rather than finding some photo etch for the hinges, I decided to use some 20 thousandths brass rod. Just cut 2 small lengths and then glue them just underneath the lid on the back of the box to represent the hinges. A couple drops of glue, put the hinges in place, and there we have a box. But there's a few more things we could add to this box. How about some handles? To make the handles, I'm using a wire bending tool. This one is called the grab handler, but many companies offer a similar type of a tool. Once the handles are bent to shape, I cut them to length. A couple of drops of super glue, grab the small handles, put them in place, and there we have it. A nice box to add to our scene. And finally, how about a word about color? Throughout this entire video, I've shown you pictures of these pieces in their final form, already painted. Originally, I intended to have the construction and the painting on the same video, but in the end, I decided to focus one video on construction, and the next video will be focused on the painting. And so I hope you'll tune in for that video, as it should be coming out next week. I'll have links in the description for the products that I've used in this video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave these on the video, and I'll try to get back with you as soon as I possibly can. And finally, there'll be some credits rolling through at the end of this where you can find me in other social media platforms. And once again, hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks again.